Welcome to Mimio Training Quick Learn On Demand, MimioStudio Gradebook Setup and Reports. In this session, we're going to start by talking about the MimioStudio software and how to update that if you need it. You'll get an overview of the MimioStudio Gradebook. You'll learn how to set up your gradebook, and that includes adding classes and students. You'll learn how you can add manual activities as well as automatic activities using the Mimio Vote system. I'll show you how to navigate the gradebook, how to edit gradebook information, as well as how to generate class and student reports. And then finally, how to export and import student data. So let's go ahead and get started. So the power behind the gradebook is, of course, MimioStudio. So when you install MimioStudio, it automatically installs the MimioStudio Gradebook icon. And that is what you'll need to make sure you have all that data that you can collect from your Mimio Vote system and or the Mimio Mobile enabled mobile devices using Mimio Mobile. So you can always download the latest version of Mimio software from our website, mimio.com. If you're not sure which version you have, you can always select Help and go down to About MimioStudio, and you'll be able to find what version you are running right there. So currently I'm running version 11. If you are a Mac user, you can also find how to determine your version by clicking on the Notebook menu and go to About MimioStudio. So if you have products, Mimio products, the software will automatically activate when you plug in any of your devices to the computer. If you don't have any Mimio products and you want to evaluate the software, you can certainly do that. There is a way for you to evaluate the full version of the software. Otherwise, you'll be using a limited trial version, which gives you access to most items but not everything. So if you want to enable that evaluation period, you can go once again to the Help menu, go down to About MimioStudio, and click on the Evaluate button. So just gives you some options if you are checking things out. So once again, the easiest and the suggested manner to activate your software is by connecting any Mimio device to your computer. So with that said, let's start talking about the Mimio Vote assessment system itself. Now we have to mention this simply because the gradebook automatically captures the information from the use of your Mimio Vote or a Mimio Mobile enabled mobile devices. So like I said, the Mimio Vote assessment system is used to collect that real-time student data and is very simple to set up. It does work seamlessly with the MimioStudio Gradebook software, and that, like I mentioned, installs along with the MimioStudio Notebook. And you can find out more information about how to set that up and how to begin creating assessments by registering for any of our other Quick Learn sessions that you can find at mimio.com and go over to the training tab. So I would definitely encourage you to register for, we have 2 other Mimio Vote sessions. That way you can maximize your understanding of the Mimio Vote system. So one of them is called Mimio Vote Essentials. It's all about setting up and getting your Mimio Vote supported. And then the other one is all about creating assessments. So check those out. So let's talk briefly about what is the MimioStudio Gradebook. So it really is the core of the Mimio Vote assessment system. It collects data effortlessly. Anytime that students use a Mimio Vote unit, it automatically collects that. It does give you options as far as the type of assessments that you do in your classroom. Like I mentioned earlier, it also provides real-time data that allows you, the teacher, to direct or even redirect student learning activities, as well as assess individual understanding. So it gives you a lot of power to do that. You are able to generate a number of reports. I'll show you how to do that, and that's very easy. And that allows you to gauge your student understanding. And you can definitely save a lot of time by importing student class lists, and then you can also export data and use that in other applications such as Excel or other grading programs. So let's start tackling about how you access the MimioStudio Gradebook. So again, as I mentioned, when you install MimioStudio software, it will also load and install the MimioStudio Gradebook. So on your desktop, one of the shortcuts that you will have is the MimioStudio Gradebook. So one of the ways to access MimioStudio Gradebook is simply to double-click on that icon right there. Another way that you can access the gradebook is down in the bottom right, if you're a Windows user, down in the bottom right of your screen in the taskbar, you can select and right-click on the MimioStudio icon, and as you do that, you'll see a menu pop up, and then you can simply choose Gradebook. So that will allow you to open Gradebook just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my gradebook by clicking on the icon, and you're going to see as soon as I do that, my gradebook pops up here. So I'm going to be going back and forth to show you some things, and we have our gradebook. So as you can see in my gradebook, I do have some sample classes already set up. If you are a first-time user, you would not have any classes set up, and we'll walk through how to do all that in just a second. So let me go back to our presentation, and we'll learn how to start adding classes. So adding classes, again, everything about Mimio, the software included, is very intuitive, and it just makes sense. So in order to add classes, we're going to, within the gradebook, we're going to come up here to an insert menu, or as another option, you can click on a little icon there, and I'll show you this live. And as you click on that, you're going to be given a pop-up menu that allows you to type in the name of your class. So you would simply type in the name of that particular class. Once we've added a class, we can then start adding students in much the same way. We can either click on the Insert menu and go to Add Student, or we can choose an icon-driven mechanism and enter students that way. And additionally, a third way, you can also click and Add Students over here. So let me start by doing that. Let me go back to my gradebook. Let's go ahead and add a class that we're going to call Mimio 1. So I can, again, go up to Insert and Add Class if I choose, or I can come over here to this option and just click that. There's our pop-up menu. So now I will type in the name of my class, which will be Mimio 1, and I simply hit Add. And as soon as I do that, you'll notice, let me go back here. You can use these arrows to go back. But as soon as I entered that class, it now puts me in my Mimio 1 class. Now, if I have other classes, I can use these navigation arrows to go back, and you'll see that my class has been listed alphabetically. So to get back into that class, I can either choose the drop-down menu here and go to Mimio 1, or simply double-click on the side, and that will open it up. So now we need to add a student. So if we want to add students, once again, we can go to Insert, Add Student, or I can choose the student icon. So this time I'm going to use the menu-driven, so I'm going to say Insert, Add Student. And you're going to see a display here that really walks you through it. So it gives you the option of entering the student's name, an ID number, choosing a handset, address, city, and all that good stuff. I would recommend, more than likely, all you need to do is to insert their first and last name. So I'm going to insert a Jane Doe, and you can tab through these fields. You don't need to enter a middle name. You wouldn't even need to enter a student ID unless you wanted to use that for some other purposes. So I typically leave that blank because I have another gradebook program that my school utilizes that I have to use. So this is only for me to utilize for the Mimio Vote. I would also recommend keeping the handset ID on auto. So if you leave it on auto, as you enter students in, it will automatically number them 1 through however many students you have. So as a tip here, I would highly encourage, as you add students in, that you base your adding of students upon an alphabetical list, because it will simply list them in the order that you put them. So I would definitely have a alphabetical list, and you start typing your students' names in. Now, if you choose, you can come in here and select the number of that student handset ID. But again, I would recommend that you choose auto. So you do have options there. You can come in here and add students and city and all that good stuff, but to really, you probably wouldn't need that. So it's really that simple. First and last name, leave it on auto, and then hit Add. So you can see you can add a number of data points in very quickly. Now, in one of my sample classes, I already have a name of this student in that class. So it's going to ask me, do I want to link to this student? The only reason if you get a message like this, that means you have that same student in another class. If you link it, all that's going to do is bring across their information, such as their address and things like that. It will not bring across their student number. So typically, I would just say no if you get that, and then they're going to be added. But typically, you're not going to run into that. So I can go ahead and add another student. I can say Steve. Oh, I don't want to add a class. I'm on the wrong area. I want to click on Student. And maybe I want to type in Steve Smith, and then I'll hit Add. And as soon as I do that, he gets added. So again, if I select out here with any time you wanted to select data or students, you click on these little boxes over to the left of the item, and you're going to see Jane Doe over here has been assigned handset 1, and Steve Smith has been assigned handset number 2. Now, at any time, if you need to come back in and change some information, you can always select the student, You can double-click and change any information there. You can also, after selecting a student, you can come over here to Edit Student to change any of that information if you choose to. So you do have options once you've entered that information to modify that. All right. So we've been able to add a class. We've been able to add a couple students. Again, just to go back through this, first name, last name, you can make your choice on if you want to choose the number or let it be automatically determined, which I would recommend, and then hit Add. And that's as easy as it is as to add students to your class. Now, there are some ways that you can utilize to import class lists very quickly. So I'm not going to really cover that in this capacity, but what I am going to do is I'm going to send you a file that will show up here in just a second. Let me get it all queued up here. And in this set of files will be some options for you to use to walk through and add lists of students from your classes from an Excel file. So the file that I'm going to send you, let me get this all queued up here. This is going to have a number of PDFs in it that you can utilize, but one of the documents inside of it will allow you to walk through and even include a video link that will show you how to quickly and effortlessly generate an Excel file from maybe another grading program that you have and import those students right into each class. So check that out. You should be seeing a message coming across your screen that Mimio admin has sent you something. Just click and download that, save that somewhere where you can find it, such as your desktop, and then you can look on that. So just know that although it's not too big a deal to manually insert student names, you can very easily add every single student to every single class you create very quickly. So check that document out there. So I think we've done this well enough. So again, we could come back in here and add another class, and that would be a task for you is for you to go through and add a class and start adding students to that particular class as a sample. So again, if I wanted to demonstrate this, I could come back in. I could add, again, I could click the navigation arrow to go back to my classes, or at any time I could click on the Add Class. If I want to click on and add a new class called History, I could click on History, and then maybe I want to add two very famous people to my class, maybe George Washington. And I'll just hit Add, and I could hit another person, which might be, let's say, Ronald Reagan. So totally different time frames. Obviously, one of my students was held back at some point, so I can hit there. Now again, as I enter them, I didn't enter them alphabetically, but they do alphabetize themselves in my list. But do keep in mind, I added George Washington first, so you'll notice that George has a handset of number 1, and Ronald Reagan has a handset of number 2. So again, I would highly encourage you to print off an alphabetical list of your students and then add them in that order. That way, it's very easy for them to know what handset they're going to see. So, and there's ways within the software that we show you in some of our later Quick Learn sessions how students will know which handsets they use. So that is really all it takes to get rolling with adding students and adding classes. So let's talk about adding activities. So again, anytime you use your Mimio Vote system, or any time that you use a Mimio mobile device, Mimio mobile-enabled mobile device to do an assessment, that data is automatically captured into the gradebook. So you're going to see a display of information that looks something like this. All that data has automatically been captured, and you as a teacher can go back in after the assessment and capture all of that. However, what I will mention is that you can come in here and use the gradebook as a standalone gradebook. If you have no other gradebook options, you can use your gradebook to capture data that you want and manually insert any data that you want. So most schools nowadays, you typically have a gradebook program that they have to use, but just know that you can use it in a manual way to add anything that you would like to. So you're going to be able to see all sorts of data. There's different question templates that are built into the software that allow you to do teacher-led and self-paced questions. Again, all of those pieces of information about creating assessments, I would definitely encourage you to check out our Mimio Vote Creating Assessments Quick Learn, which of course you can find at the website, which I'm going to put that in on the left side of your window there. Mimio.com/QuickLearn will be the place to go for that. So that should show up there on the left side. So again, anytime you do an assessment, it automatically gets added to your gradebook. So like I mentioned, you can use it for anything outside of MimioVote. So if you want to add your own items into the gradebook to track, you can certainly do that, and I will show you how to do that right now. So in my gradebook, let me go to class. So all these classes, let's go to this first period math. All these classes, all this data was automatically captured. So as soon as I enabled a MimioVote assessment, the data was automatically captured, and it collects everything. So if I would want to come into my Period 1 math class, or let's go back to my Mimio 1 class. So I would double click on it, get into the class. If I want to manually add some sort of activity, I could certainly do that using this button here. Again, I could also come up here to Insert, Add Activity, or use Control-D. You notice there are some other keyboard shortcuts you can use for quick access. So if I want to manually add an activity, this would be for when I didn't use MimioVote, but yet I want to use the Mimio Gradebook as my own gradebook. I could come in here, Add Activity, type in a name, so maybe it's Worksheet 5 or 4-1, and I could put it in a different category. It could be a test, a homework, or other. That's just for your reference. You could choose the date that it was assigned. You can give it the number of points. Maybe it was worth 10 points. And so just like most other gradebook applications, you put in the category, you hit Add, it shows up, and now what I could do, again, I see that homework item show up there, and if I click on my column here, I can now come in here and add my number of points for that activity. So maybe Jane scored a 9 out of 10, and maybe Steve scored a 10 out of 10. And you're going to be able to see that. So again, I'm selected to this homework item, and at any time I can go back and edit activity and change the name of that and do whatever I'd like to do there. So again, Worksheet 4-1, and there it took at that time. For some reason it didn't do it the first time. I may not have hit something right. So you'll see that Worksheet 4.1 is there, and then I can put my, my activity there. So not that you may have a need for using the gradebook for manual activities, but just know that it's there. So again, I can navigate back and forth through the different levels using these navigation arrows at any time. I can use these drop-down menus to go to any class at any time, choose a particular date of an assessment, and even choose a type of assessment that's there. So everything is menu-driven. You can get there. The other way to get there, of course, is to double-click just to the left of every entry, and you can dive deeper and deeper. And then you can also choose the headings. If I had any data here, I could click on this test heading, double-click it, and it's going to break down into the question level. It's going to actually show me what the questions were, as well as any student responses if my students gave any responses. So that's a little bit about how to use your gradebook in a manual mode if you would choose to. So I've already started talking a little bit about navigation, but let's make sure we go back through it. So again, the gradebook is separated by class, date, and activity. So you can double-click, like I've already showed you, out to the left of any item and get to that. You can also use the drop-down menu to get there. You're going to see class scores and averages that include total points and all that information, so that is definitely beneficial for you. You can continue to navigate, like I mentioned, by going backwards and forwards using the arrows. Once you've chosen the drop-down menus and you get to a test level or a date level, you can double-click that heading, and as you do that, that will expand the menu out to showing you even more information. So if I double-click this test, again, you're going to notice on this column that the class average is down at the bottom, the total points possible, the number of points that each student has earned will be showing up over here. And you're also going to be able to see the activity information that is over here. So again, you can double click on the heading, and as you do that, you will expand it to the question level, and then you're going to be able to see question by question, and it gives you a great analysis here by color coding the answers. So obviously green means those are correct answers, and red would mean those are incorrect answers. So it also tabulates down at the bottom of each question, gives you a very good synopsis of the number of students that were correct out of the total number of students responded. So you can see in this question, I have 17 out of 18 of my kiddos did a fantastic job. So that particular question, which when it's highlighted, it's going to show you that question right here. And you can always come back over here and edit the question if you would choose to. So if I would click on the Edit Question, it's going to give me the ability to change anything about the question. Maybe I put my answer in wrong when I put this test in. So I can automatically change maybe from answer B to answer C, and it will automatically regrade everything. So that time that I would waste because I made a mistake is done by the computer. So that makes it really a really nice feature. So again, once you've selected an activity, you can view and edit the question and results, and you have a lot of power in what you can do there. So like I've mentioned, you can easily edit that class information. You can select anything about the class by just double-clicking on the name, the students. You can even come in and edit and delete items. So let's say if you have a student leave, or maybe there's an activity that you no longer want to be part of the grade, you can delete anything that you put into the gradebook. So to do that, you would select an item, and then you would right-click and choose Delete, or you're going to use the Edit menu and choose Delete when it's highlighted. So let's take a look at that. Let's go back to my gradebook. So let's say in my Mimio 1 class, maybe I no longer want that class. So again, with this selected, I can come up here to Edit, and I can choose Delete, and it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to do this? And you simply have to type in with all caps the word Delete. And then as soon as you do that and hit OK, that class no longer appears. All right. So you can do that with anything. And again, maybe you want to be more specific on which history class this is. So I can select that, and I can choose history. And now I can text edit. I can type in maybe this is first hour. All right. So you can do that. You can double click into the class, or again choose the history first hour class from here. And maybe one of these students, maybe they got a name change. Maybe the parents went through some situations and they wanted their name changed, or maybe you simply typed it in wrong. You can again select on anything here and type in their names. So maybe we want to change Ronald Reagan to Ronald Owens, whoever that would be. So you have all those options of what you can do there, keeping in mind that over here on the right side you can always edit the class, you can edit students, and generate reports, which we'll go through here in just a little bit. So that's just another way that you can modify all these. So it's very easy to go back in and edit and to navigate. Now let's say that I have a set of scores and I want to make sure I go back and can edit those scores. You can certainly do that also through a student response button. So I'll click here, then we'll do it live. So if I want to change anything about this, I click the student response when I'm at the question level, and then I can choose a new item here. So why would that be practical to do? Well, to demonstrate this, let me go to my Science 1 class, and let me choose an assessment that I've already given. And again, I'm double-clicking on the heading, and as I do that, it expands that. And then I can use the slider to go through my answers. But as I'm evaluating my data here, I happen to notice that my question 2, now watch over here, when I click on the column heading for question 2, I get the question that pops up. So I happen to notice that I have an awfully bad question going on here. So either the question's horrible, or my students didn't understand it, or maybe I have the key wrong. And so it turns out that my key is wrong. So I can very easily come in here and edit this question by clicking Edit Question. And maybe instead of answer D, once I look back at this, I realize, oh, reactivity is a chemical property of matter. So if I check B, now keep in mind, let me scoot this over, we had 2 of 18 students get this right. So once I choose a correct answer and hit OK, it automatically gets regraded. Now 15 of 18, and all my class averages and all that get recalculated. So it's really, really that simple. Now at some point, maybe this Joe Gouge comes up and says, hey, can you check that answer? And they happen to have marked the correct answer on his actual paper test that I keep. So maybe I can come in here and for some reason he pushed the wrong button. Well, you know, that's just how it rolls. But I can also come in at any time and select that particular answer, come down here to student response, and now I can change Joe's response to what he intended it to be. So maybe he meant it to be choice D or choice C. I can make that choice there. So his response I can manipulate down here. So again, here's what the answer should be, and here's maybe he said A, not knowing that that was still going to be wrong. But there you go. So if I did choose the right answer, I could choose maybe choice B, you're going to see that it automatically regrades it. You get the green indicator saying that's right, and again, all the data catches up. So there's a lot of power that you can do with the gradebook, and that's being able to edit and delete and manipulate whatever you need to manipulate. So let's get past this because we've already done all those. We've changed some information. We've deleted some classes, but you can also delete a student just like that. So just to demonstrate that, if I want to come in here and let me go back to my one of my new classes that I've just added. Let's go to my history class, and let's say this Ronald Owens leaves class. It's a very small class, so I can right-click, delete, and again type in delete. So you can change and delete any information that you want. It could be an activity, it could be a student, and there he's gone. If I want to delete an entire activity, I would again select the date that I did that activity on. Let's say maybe 10/15. I could choose the activity. There it is. And so let me go back a level actually. And I could right-click on the actual heading of that category, and then that's where I could say delete right there. So yet again, I'm being asked to type in all caps the word delete. So you can delete any information that you add. That's the main message. So as far as reports, you can generate a number of reports that gives you a lot of different data sets that you can analyze, whether from a student level or whatever you need to do. So there are 4 types of reports that are available: class grade reports, class activity reports, student summary report, and student activity report. So each one of these are going to have certain requirements that have to be selected in order to generate. But depending on what level in the gradebook that you're at, you can always generate report, and then you'll have your choice of some of these. So let's start talking about these. Let's start with the class grade report. So the class grade report will appear once you have chosen just a generic class, a general class, and it's going to allow you to provide student class grades and a class average. So if I do this real quick, I can just choose a class. Let me click all the way back, navigating to the left to my class level. If I want to generate a report just for this class, keep in mind it's going to be very general information, I select the class and I choose Generate Report, and it's going to be right there. So when I click OK, keep in mind every one of these reports will open up in a web browser. So they're all web-based HTML, so you can print them. So you're going to be able to see a class list. You're going to be able to see their student ID if you put a student ID in. You're going to be able to see their total points as well as their overall class grade. So you can print this, you can save it as a PDF, you can do a number of things with that. So that's what you would get for a class grade report. For a class activity report, I have to go further into a class and choose an activity. And what that will show you is the student activity points and scores. It's going to give you the average and also give you a summary of the questions. So this one becomes pretty powerful because now you can start to analyze question by question what students have done. So if I go into, let me choose a different class here that I know I have some better data in. So I'm going to choose my Science 1 class. I'm going to choose maybe a date here from this first class, and I'll choose Chapter 1 test. All right, so I've chosen my activity, and now I can choose Generate Report. So now I get my same class grade report, but I also now get the class activity report. So it's going to give you a detailed report for just that one activity. I'm going to click OK. Yet again, it's going to go into your default web browser. You're going to be able to see every student, the number of questions that were asked, the number of points they got correct, as well as their overall score on that test itself. So this would be ideal. After each test, you could print this out, and then maybe you have to collect data in another school-provided gradebook. This would be ideal for you to take their grades from that assessment and transfer those right into that gradebook. What I also really like about this is I'm going to be able to look at every question, see what my answers were provided, see what the correct answer is, and to see how the class did as a whole on each question. So I can do a question-by-question analysis and look for those questions where my students struggled. And that gives me an opportunity, maybe with this one, maybe my students just didn't understand the question, but we have an issue for maybe a reteaching moment, dealing with maybe precision and accuracy. So it really gives you a lot of power behind what you can do with the data. So that would be the class activity report. Student summary report is going to give you the student average, the activity listing, points, and score. So within a class, you would actually choose a student. So if I demonstrate that real quick, I could come over here to, let me go back to the level. So I would have just chosen a class. So we'll go back to our science one. I'll choose Julie here. And if that's as far as I go, I can go to Generate Report. And there's my student summary report. And again, you're going to see Julie's progress report over every test or activity you've entered, the date it was taken, the questions, the points, the scores. You see it all there. So it's just a very general summary and then a class average, her average based upon that. And then the last type of report that you can do is a student activity report. So again, this is going to drill down more specifically to each student. It's going to give you student activity reports in the form of points and a score, and it's also going to give you that question summary with answers. So if I go back to my gradebook, maybe I can choose Julie, drive down to one of the recent tests we did. And now with the actual test chosen, go to Generate Report. I need to choose a student first. Let me choose Julie. Now choose Generate Report, and there's that student activity report. I click OK, and I'm going to see for that activity what Julie's score was, the number of points and questions she got right. Question by question, I can see and go through with Julie to see where she struggled. So she's doing really well so far. Then we look at each question by question analysis on how she did. So really these two drill down reports, both at the class level and the student level, they give you a lot of power to how you can analyze that data if you choose to do that, which definitely gives you a lot of validity to what you're doing with assessments. So now that you know how to do all those reports, you can also export your data. And the reason you would want to export your data is to back it up. Let's say your computer crashes and you have all this data on your computer. What now? So it's always encouraged to always back up anything on your computer. But just know that you can back it up, or if you are moving computers or are using the gradebook on another computer, say at home, you can export your data and move it to another computer. So to do that, just like the screenshots show, you would go to File, Export, and Class, and then anytime you back up your data, it's going to save it as an MVA file. All right, so you're going to choose Export Class Information. So if I would do that, I'm going to choose, let me go back to my class level. Maybe I want to export the history class data. So I'm going to go to File, Export. I'm going to choose Class, and I'm going to do Export Class Information and choose OK. And you'll see that it automatically shows up as an MVA file, and you save it on your computer, and then you can import that file in just one moment. I'll show you how to do that. So it's really easy to do that. You'd have to export every single class separately in order to back them up. So you'd have to, if you have 7 classes, you'd have to go click on each class just like that and go to File, Export, choose the class, and choose Export Class Information. So it even tells you there it can be used to back up a class, which then can be restored at another time, or to transfer classes between gradebooks. So the description there tells you really what you need to know. So in addition to exporting, you can also export class activity results and other applications. So you can actually export your data and save it as a CSV file or text file. So once you have saved it as a CSV file, then you can import that data as an Excel file and do all sorts of things with that. So once again, exporting that data becomes very important. You can export that data and bring it right in. Here's an example of what that would look like once you brought it into Excel. All those data columns are brought in, and every question is on there with the number of points they received as well as their answer. So now you can really drive down that data and analyze that to your needs. So once again, once you are in your gradebook, you would choose a class, choose a particular activity. So let's go back to our test here. And I could go File, Export, and I can do Activity or Students. So if I chose Activity, I can export my activity results. And as soon as I hit OK, it's going to give me the option of saving that as a CSV file or a text file, both of which you could bring into Excel and do all the data analysis that you wanted to. So it really gives you a lot of options as far as what you want to do. Now, we mentioned earlier about saving or backing up your gradebook. You can very easily import that gradebook data much in the same easy way. So you're going to click on File, Import, you're going to choose Class, and then you're going to look for that MVA file, and that, as soon as you do that, that will bring all that data back right into your gradebook. So yet again, here's how we would do it live. You'd go to File. Oh, sorry, I should be in my gradebook, shouldn't I? I'm going to go to File, Import, and I'm going to import a class or I could even do students, but import class. And again, it's going to only be looking for an MVA file. So if you had saved an MVA file, it's going to open up right there and give you that option. All right. So you have a number of different options allowing you to do that and to benefit from using your MimioVote system or your Mimio mobile enabled devices to capture data. So as extension activities, we give you a few things here to get started. Definitely you want to get started by adding classes and get those students added to your gradebook. Use your MimioVote to collect assessment data. There's a lot of different modes, from the quick vote mode, the teacher-led mode, as well as self-paced modes that allow you to instantly collect that data and capture that real-time assessment information. Generate your choice of reports or export your activity reports so you can analyze your student success. Definitely take a hand at backing up your gradebook as an MVA file. And then you can definitely learn more about creating assessments using the MimioVote from our other Quick Learn sessions I encourage you to check out. We have a host of other Mimio training options, both available on demand and online, so check those out. We have a number of reference guides, video tutorials that are 3 to 7 minutes usually in length. Of course, you're enjoying one of our Quick Learn recordings right now, but just realize we have a number of those, as well as live Quick Learn sessions, which I always recommend to educators because it gives you the opportunity to work directly with a Mimio expert teacher using the products every day in their classroom, ask those questions, and really engage with people in that session. So check those out again at mimio.com/quicklearn. Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention our teacher community, MimioConnect. Thousands and thousands of teacher-generated, teacher-created lessons. It's absolutely free to you. Most of the lessons are content aligned to fit the state standards as well as Common Core standards. So definitely something you can check out. You do not have to reinvent the wheel if you're new to Mimio. You can simply take ideas from others and adapt them to fit your needs. And know that we also have a team of Mimio Masters, we call it the Ask a Master, that are there to answer any questions you have directly, usually within about 24 hours. So I threw the link out there to MimioConnect on the left side of your monitor. Check that out and definitely become a member if you are not. If you'd like to find out more about any of the Mimio Classroom products, I've mentioned today the MimioVote. I've also mentioned Mimio Mobile. Of course, I've been using MimioStudio in all of the presentations, so definitely check those out. You can always visit Mimio.com or contact your reseller for more information. And finally, we have reached the end of this session, so I'd like to say thank you for spending part of your time. I'm going to throw a final link in the chat window there off to your left side, and this is going to take you to a specific assessment for this session. If you would choose to take that short assessment of 15 questions, you could possibly earn a certificate of completion, which an automated email will be sent out to you once you've completed that successfully, allowing you to download and print and save a specific certificate of completion, which you may be able to use for professional development credits in your neck of the woods. So once again, thank you for joining us. Please reach out anytime at training@mimio.com if you have any questions. Also get interactive with us on any of our social media channels such as Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Thank you. Have a great day.